All right, welcome back to the Central Valley Buzz, everybody. I'm your host, Chuck Leonard. Billy?
Yes.
Let's bring in Mr. Michael Bogart. Hello, sir.
Hi, Chuck.
How's it going? How are you today?
Great. How are you?
Good, good. What's happening?
Well, I just wanted to follow up a little bit on what Mike Reynolds just said in the previous segment.
He's a good lead-in for you, isn't he?
He really is, you know, and he's actually, I want to say he's performing a valuable service, and I think we owe him a debt of gratitude for the hard work that he's been putting in over the years. But, you know, Mike, just by virtue of what he has to talk about, always kind of spreads doom and gloom. And what I've been picking up over this last, well, really since the summer, is a lot of Americans are really absorbed in this doom and gloom that seems to be accompanying.
It's an election year.
It's an
Come
election
on,
year.
it comes
but
with it.
But as you've pointed out, I think this is an especially interesting election year. This is a year that has created, in my opinion at least, more controversy than any election I can remember in my lifetime. And
well,
so,
I mean, there's one guy is creating quite a bit of controversy.
It seems like no matter who wins this election, there's going to be a sizable group of people in our society that are upset about it. And
well, that's how it is every time. I think my point is that maybe the Democrats haven't won these past two elections. Maybe the Republicans have lost them.
Well, and that may very well be true. My point was not to be a political analyst, you know.
Oh, but I am by no means anyone's political analyst.
Well, you know, not
I'm
me.
not an analyst on anything.
But I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say that what I'd like to bring to this whole perspective on things is some good news.
Good.
What I consider
good.
To be
I
good
could
news.
use some.
Yeah, some good news. And along with that, you know, there's a segment in our society that seems to think the Bible is bad news and Christianity is bad news. And what I wanted to remind people is that actually Christianity started out as the best news there could possibly be, and the Bible is the record book of God's work throughout human history to bring some good news to people.
It started out as the best news ever. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you know,
you were talking about this. This started in the Old Testament.
Well,
you know.
the word gospel means good news.
Right.
And that's what.
But it went bad really fast.
What are you talking about?
In the beginning.
Well, we're talking about you're talking about the Old Testament. I'm talking about Christianity.
Oh, the New Testament.
The New Testament, right? And the New Testament talks about several points of good news. Number one, God actually loves people. He's not against people. He's not an enemy of people. He actually loves people, and he wants them back in relationship with himself. That's the whole point of the Christian message. And so, you know, you get all these people talking about how God's a mean God and all this sort of thing. And you
Why?
can,
because of the bad stuff that happens in the world?
Well, you know, people blame God for people's choices sometimes. And, you know, I'm not the only one that's talked about this, and my opinion about this is just my opinion, but it seems to me that if God is going to give people really true free choice, he has also given them the possibility of choosing the wrong thing. And if you choose the wrong thing, bad things happen from that. So a lot of times we blame God for giving us free choice when we really want to be created as robots. I don't think so. So anyway, the point is that the gospel, I think, is good news when you understand it properly, that God is a loving God when you understand him the way he really is, and that he's proved it by entering the human race. And of course, this is the core of the Christian message, that God incarnated himself into the human race in the person of Jesus Christ to prove how much he wanted us back. I know that seems a little weird in terms of the 21st century, but that is the permanent Christian message throughout the last 2,000 years.
Is that message getting a little harder to get over to people, though? Are people getting too critical?
Well, you know, we live in an age in which Reddit and you know, all these blogs on the internet are super critical, hypercritical of everything, and maybe in some cases, you know, justifiably so. But at what price do we pay for all this skepticism and criticism? I think that's why my whole point in my ministry is to bring good news to people. It's to remind people that there's hope in the future, that God's in control, that no matter what may be happening now, ultimately the future is a very hopeful thing.
So do you only teach from the New Testament then?
No, of course I believe in the Old Testament as well. But understanding what the Old Testament's all about, God had a lot of damage control to overcome in the Old Testament. He chose the nation of Israel.
He doesn't have damage control now, Mike?
Well, yeah, I know, he does. But he's been working on this for a long, long time. And if you understand the Old Testament in cultural context, it makes a lot of sense when you see it that way. that God was trying to overcome a lot of damage. He chose a nation of Israel to sort of represent him. Sometimes they did a good job, sometimes they did a poor job. And then finally they did produce...
That's a very large task to ask of somebody.
Well, I know, and the Jews haven't always been happy about it either. But they did manage to produce the Messiah, and in the person of Jesus Christ, who is the best news you could possibly have.
So in your book, The 45-Minute Bible, I see you brought that up here with you today. In this book, does it go through just the New Testament?
No, this book is a summary, or I guess you'd say a brief, overview of the entire Bible, Old and New Testament.
Now, the things that you go over in this book, are they things that are important to you in the Bible, or things that you think are that are questionable to other people in the Bible? What did you key on?
Well, I mean, obviously, I wrote this introduction, so it's keyed to what I think is important, of course. But I've been studying the Bible for years, and as you know, I teach courses, not the Bible, but I teach the courses in secular colleges and so forth. But what I did include in this was 30 of the frequently asked questions I always get. So those are questions people have always asked me. Okay, well, how about, does archaeology confirm the biblical record? Does science disagree with the Bible? Is there a code? Is there some kind of code in the Bible?
People ask that?
Oh, certainly. Oh, yeah, it's all over the internet. So, yeah.
Oh, it must not have been all over the internet.
Well,
then.
yeah, no, it is. If you look in the right places, people are asking some of these questions, along with the fact of whether God's fair, does God really love us, all of that kind of stuff.
Wow.
So 30 FAQs that I think are really helpful.
45-Minute Bible plus 4 other books?
4 other books, yes. In fact, this one just got translated into Spanish, so that kind of makes 5.
Nice.
But I Know Islam is a very fair and unbiased account of Islam. I know Mormonism, I know the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I know the New Age movement. All presented from a fact, non-biased, hopefully, point of view.
You ever have people buy all 5 of them at once?
Oh, certainly.
You do, don't you?
Yeah, people buy the package, yep.
Wow. Hey, this is Michael Bogart. He's here with me every week. He's a sponsor of the show. If you guys are interested in his books, and I know you are, go to aspectministries.com and just give him a little note. Tell him you saw him right here on The Buzz. Mike, always good to see you.
Good to see you, Chuck.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, live local music from Steve Ono. Stick around.